Welcome to another Round the Rotary with me, JP Warren. And with us today, we got a good buddy of mine, Marty Unrein, the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing with Universal Pressure Pumping. Marty, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, JP. How are you doing?
Pretty good. And for those of you that are listening, we are kind of recording this on the tail end of the stay-at-home orders, pretty much.
Let's hope the tail end. Let's hope
the tail end.
It's looking bright right now, but we hope so.
But we never know what's going to happen. We never know if there's going to be a resurgence in cases or how the government's going to react. So let's just hope it's the tail end where we actually start getting out of house again.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess let's kick this off, man. First off, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Give us a little background about yourself. Where'd you start off and kind of what took you to where you're at today?
Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I've listened to your other ones, and it's a really good opportunity to come here and just visit with you and kind of share a little bit about my story. So, as you know, I've known each other for quite a while, but I was born and raised in Colorado, about an hour north of Denver in Eaton, Colorado. Born and raised there, out in the country. My dad was in the oil field when we were younger, so he pushed tools for a lot of different drilling contractors through the years, Exeter being one of them that a lot of people on this listening to this would know. So, when we were little kids, my older brother Mike and I really spent a lot of time around the rigs. We really spent, basically years living on them with my dad. And then probably the early 90s, I would say, my dad got out of it. I think there was a crash around that time and got out of the oil field. And so through high school, through college, never really thought about the oil field, never really, thought about getting into it at all. Did you have a bad,
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Did you have a bad taste in your mouth after your dad walked away from the oil field?
No, not at all. It just wasn't around, there was no rigs running around at that time, in the late 90s, and going into college, you just weren't around it. So when you weren't around it, it's not part of your daily vocabulary because he was off doing something else. And so, it just really wasn't something that kept coming around. So, I was an economics major through college. I went to school at the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley. And I was wanting to make money with other people's money. I was like, I want to make money that way. So that's what I wanted to do. Graduated in August of 2004. My brother and I walked on the same day. My brother Mike just went and started roughnecking right away, and I was going to try to find a real job, try to find something.
Who do you go start roughnecking with?
He actually went for a brief time with the company that was Kaza, which eventually was bought out by Ensign, and then he went to Patterson. So really at those times, you went to work for the company that was shorthanded. So, there wasn't really an application process. You showed up and they were shorthanded, you went to work. So anyway, I was trying to find a financial advisor job, trying to find something else to really, use my degree per se. And it just wasn't very easy.
And I kind of feel like we need more financial advisors, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to, for me, I always liked economics. I was like, man, just the market was always very interesting to me. Well, it wasn't that easy to find something at that time. And, any entry job was going to be like $30,000 a year. And so, my dad's like, why don't you go roughneck? At that time it was 4 on 4 off. And he's like, on your days off, you can look for a real job. And I said, all right, that sounds good to me. Well, I ended up going around and I broke out on January 27th of 2005 on Patterson Rig 6 up in the DJ Basin. And so my brother was on, I think 34 and I was on 6. Well, it took me one paycheck and I looked at it and was like, well, heck with this. Like, this is great. I mean, it's more money than I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, it was great. And it was so much fun, like working out in the field with your friends. I mean, we're all about the same age, young 20s. I mean, it was a great opportunity. And so,
oh, absolutely. I mean, the guys that you meet out there, I used to work on offshore on the Noble Guard. And I'll tell you one thing, the guys you meet out there and the guys that you're working with, it's nothing beats them, in my opinion.
Yeah. I still keep in touch with all the guys that I broke out with on Patterson 6. I still talk to them. They're still in the industry. So it's, those are lasting relationships, and you know, it was just a great time. So that was '05. Then I worked my way up and I started drilling in February of '06. And so, you know, as my brother Mike and I were roughnecking at that time, and my brother Mark was coming in when he was going to college every once in a while. Then, you know, my dad saw us in the oil field and he decided to get back into it. So he got back into the oil field, and they ended up putting him pushing on the rig I was drilling on. So I ended up drilling for my dad from '06 to '08. And so that was interesting in itself, but that was also a fun time, you know. And really the best part about drilling was you were able to hire your own people at that time. You're able to grow a culture on the rig. So, you know, at that time, people with that college education just weren't, you know, there wasn't a lot of us roughnecking at the time. And so really I had the opportunity to go. And at one point, all my crew had college educations, and that was just unheard of at that time. But so drilling, having a good time. And, you know, I could see that, you know, there's really no place to move up at that time unless, you know, somebody retired or died, really, to go pushing. And so I was really putting out feelers, and Mike Holcomb came into senior vice president role at Patterson-UTI. Matt Pye came in as senior vice president of sales and marketing. My brother got a promotion, and I was just begging, hey, just give me an opportunity. And then in '08, they let me apply for a job in Tyler, Texas, doing sales. And so I was like, yes, absolutely.
Well, let me stop you there. You said you were applying, you're kind of gunning for a role. What were you going for? Was it sales, or was it pretty much anything on the corporate level?
So I was actually geared towards sales is what I wanted. You know, I loved operations. I totally loved it. But, you know, I think my personality always kind of fit sales. You know, I enjoy visiting with people. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy all that. And so my brother was taking the operations route. And so it was also natural for me to kind of follow that. So they gave me the opportunity to apply in Tyler, Texas. And we were moving the rig, and I literally raised the derrick one day and drove to the airport, flew to Tyler, interviewed, flew back to Colorado, and it went to work the next day. I was gone like 24 hours. And sure enough, they called me and said that, you know, offered me the position. And in 2 weeks, I was living in Tyler, Texas, doing sales. And that was April of '08. So it was great. And if you remember '08, that was a boom time there. You know, it was, to me, I was like, this is the greatest job ever. You know, everybody wants a rig. It was a lot of fun. And then '08 happened, which everybody remembers '08. When it went down hard in '08, you know. And so, you know, I was just fresh off the rig, had just moved, and I was like, oh man, this is not the right time to move. This is terrible. But
and you didn't have your customer base then. I mean, you were just fresh into it. I mean, you just didn't have any contacts.
Nothing. I mean, you know how it is trying to get into the sales group. I was out of Tyler. I was running to Houston a lot, you know, but there was a lot of good people there always is good people in the industry. And you meet some of the people that really appreciated that I started at the, you know, roughneck and worked up the drilling before I went into sales. And so that helped me.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you on that, but I kind of do. I kind of want to translate what you just said to the people that are listening, especially to the younger people that are listening. Yeah. That experience that you have at that field level, and especially if you've worked the rigs, if you've worked the wireline trucks or whatever it is, that is gold. That is worth its weight in gold when you're actually coming and talking to whether it's engineers or whether it's the decision makers. I mean, having that field experience.
It was in '08, you know, that was before the big crew change that they always talked about, where the, you know, 50, 60-year-olds rode off into the sunset, where they truly appreciated that. They truly did. And honestly, and I never had sales background, but I could talk rigs, you know, and I could talk what was going on. And so that helped me tremendously. And even to this day, I mean, all of us, you know, most of all my friends all have field experience. You know, we all know what it's like. And that makes it hard in downturns too, because you know how hard those people are working. And when, you know, there's not another job for them, that's tough. So, but it really did help me. And I'm very fortunate for it. And I'm really glad that I did start there. So, you know, the downturn happened and, you know, Patterson kept me in sales and, you know, I beat the streets every day. And finally, when it started coming out of there, I was able to get some contracts that, we never had worked for as Patterson. And it really helped kind of position me to stay in sales and show the value I could bring. So in 2010, Patterson moved me to Houston, where I started working for a guy named Ronnie McBride. If you remember him, a lot of people know Ronnie.
I think more people know Ronnie than they don't know Ronnie McBride.
Yeah, and it was a great opportunity. You got to work for somebody else, and and Tyler, I was working under Jimmy Slay. He's the one that hired me off the rig, and it was learned a lot under him. And you go to Ronnie and you learn a lot. And Houston's just this huge metropolis, and you're trying to really place yourself and grow your network. And Ronnie ended up retiring, and I became the vice president of sales and marketing for South Texas for us. And that was until 2017. And then in 17, Patterson-UTI came to me and offered me the position to come over to Universal Pressure Pumping, our sister company. And, I jumped at the chance. It's a totally different business model, something that literally I didn't know anything about. And you're able to go over there and just start from scratch and really grow, expand your knowledge of the business, expand your customer network, really grow a lot. So I did that in I think September of 17. And then in last February of 19, I became the senior vice president of sales and marketing, looking over all of Universal. So it's been a long road. I know it's kind of a long story, but I've been fortunate enough to work for the same company for over 15 years now, and that's, you don't hear that a lot. I still have two brothers that work for Patterson on the side, and so it's been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate to work for Patterson, and I'm very happy that they were shorthanded that day back in 2005.
Well, that's interesting too. And I think this is probably something, again, maybe to not just the younger people listening, but also the veterans. I mean, you were pretty much, your life was rigs for about 12 years, whether you're working on them to whether you're selling them or putting contracts together for them.
Yep.
And suddenly whether it's an opportunity or maybe it's kind of a shock to the system, you decide to take on this whole new role about a side of the business that you really weren't exposed to before.
Yeah.
But did you always view that as kind of an opportunity, or did you kind of view that as like, shit, this is going to be a challenge? I mean, what was your mindset behind that?
So I to be completely honest with you, when the opportunity came, your first instinct is no. I'm rigs. I'm a rig guy, and in the industry, you don't see people change a lot. They're either rigs or they're frac. That's literally it. But so at first I was like, no, I'm not interested. I'm a rig guy. I mean, that's where my blood is. But you sit back a little bit and you think about where that opportunity goes, right? At that moment, it's maybe not most ideal thing in your mind for the next 6 months, but if you can really jump in there, help change a culture, help build a team, help position you in the market, where does that go from there, right? And so that's where I got excited about it. And complete honest, it took me a little bit to get excited about that, just because you're rigs, right? You're rigs. I don't know anything about frac, but I learned real quick when I came over here that there's good people on this side too, and you start having those friends, and you're like, okay, this is good. The first Thanksgiving, when I couldn't sit around the table and talk rigs with all my brothers and dad and stuff, that was a little awkward, but
well, I remember you when you made that jump. I mean, you were learning, you were on the road, you were trying to learn everything about that side of the business. I think it was like 8 or 9 months you were constantly learning that side of the business.
Oh yeah.
And you were kind of out of pocket for a little bit learning it.
It was, yeah. You used to text me like a whole conversation about, oh yeah, never mind, you won't be back in town, that sort of thing. But I was, I mean, you truly have to be engaged, and you have to, when you're coming from the rig side, you also have to prove to everybody that in the new company you're going to, that you're there and that you believe it and you're bought in, it's that you're going to help in any way you can. So, I was on the road a lot, and, I'm still on the road a lot. just trying to, not today, but, historically on the road a lot, just trying to, be involved in everything I can to really, understand the needs of the company and everything like that. So, but yeah, that first year was a lot on the road. I mean, it was there. I got a lot of Hilton points that year for sure, living in hotels.
So I guess looking at your whole career, and I think this is probably pretty pertinent to what's going on today with people either pushed into other roles or responsibilities with the activity slowing down, and whether it's either reduction in pay cut or maybe losing their job. Have you ever taken a step back in your career to provide some sort of advancement? And then if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and once again, I think people determine a step back as either pay or actual true career path, right? And so when I was drilling, my last year drilling, I mean, that was more money than I ever made in my life. I mean, it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, but I was working long hours. I was working for everybody. And when I got the opportunity to go into sales, I mean, at that point, it was a substantial pay cut, but that was, you have to separate yourself from the immediate, once again, what is this going to bring me in the future? And then I got into sales, and then the downturn hit, and my mind immediately went, they're going to push me back to the rig, which I wouldn't have blamed anybody at that time. So, I was in Tyler, and I got with the superintendent, and I was like, hey, if they bump me back, I didn't want to go drill and just put me working floors. I just wanted to stay with the company. I didn't want to go back to Colorado a few months later, left unemployed. I was all about, the short setback or whatever. I want to stay positioned for the next opportunity. And so I think, that's something that in these downturns you have to do, is keep an open mind of, staying with the company, taking the opportunity, or, if you are looking to change career paths, of, not being too proud of the opportunity that comes that says, yes, I'm going to go do that, because, in 1, 2, 3 years, I'm going to be way better off than I am now. Just, so I think you have to have an open mind in these downturns to continue your career, for sure, in the oil and gas industry. So.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's completely right now. There's a lot of uncertainty, which leads to a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And that being said, I think having that mindset, that open mindset of, number one, like, okay, well, I might have to start doing other roles and responsibilities, or this pay cut looks pretty substantial. I need to look for something else. However, everyone's decision is for them. But that being said, you definitely need to have that, not entrepreneurial mindset, but you need to have that mindset where if you're looking at this, it's not the end of the world. This potentially could set you up for that next opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, when I meet anybody that's young in the industry, I always tell them, like, if you're going to stay in this, you have to be willing to travel. I mean, it's like, especially, when I was talking to people years ago on the rig, was like, if the rig goes from South Texas to West Texas, you need to go. And because that's the way you show your loyalty to the company. And that is something in the oil and gas industry, is your work ethic and your loyalty matters. I don't know if I've never really worked in other industries, but I can tell you in the oil and gas industry, that does matter. And these downturns, from where I sit today, is you're trying to make the right decisions by the people in the field, and you're trying to make the right decisions for opportunities to keep key people to come out of this. And you need people that are willing to say, yeah, here's where we're going to go, because you are trying to position the company to keep the best people to push forward. So you definitely have to be open-minded. There's no doubt.
So right now during these times, I mean, you said you studied economics, so you understand that there's a huge supply and demand issue that we're facing right now, right?
Yep.
So I guess what are you focused on right now during these times?
So this is just an interesting time for all of us, because there's many downturns that have happened, but this is the first time that this situation's happened where you truly have a supply gut and no demand, right? And it coupled with that, we're all quarantined, where you can't just go see everybody you want to see, and you can't have meetings whenever you want to have them that you're used to. I mean, when the market's open and the cities are open, you can use your network and get in front of people and really have these really productive conversations. And so when the quarantine started, I think that people were just like, by phone, couldn't really reach them any other way. But as it's progressed and people have said, we have to figure out how to do business, the video conferencing has really taken off and different things. So for what I do today is really work with my team on, what are the different ways that you can reach customers? The ones that you have strong relationships going into this, it's easy to get those connections and keep those relationships going. But how do you build a relationship in this market, right? Like, it's so hard. It's hard when you can sit across from them at a table, but it's really hard right now. And so working with the team, we really try to say, how can we use either relationships at different levels within our company, relationships with other people, other salespeople, or other salespeople in the industry of saying, how can we work together? Because it is all about teamwork and your network and trying to go. So we're working on different ways, to try to just differentiate Universal. If you can drive those differentiators of your competition, then you kind of create that demand of like that. Oh, really? You're doing this? Well, I'd like to learn more, because our industry is very hungry for knowledge. I think that most people are open to listening to what other contractors can offer, even though they've used, brand X forever. If they hear something that you're really, kind of the subject matter experts in, they're willing to listen. And so we're really trying to drive that home. And so we've done a lot of different things through, webinars, hitting some points that we think are kind of our subjects that we're the experts in, like dual fuel and things like that. So from running a sales and marketing group, it really is about the development of your people right now. Try to keep them encouraged, because it's very easy to get discouraged right now.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
I think anybody in South Texas or West Texas operating and you're called on them, it's never any good news right now. It's just more doom and gloom of taking frac holidays and not going to do anything for the next couple months or whatever. But it really is trying to keep your team motivated, trying to keep that drive, and thank goodness, like, we've, as a company, we've done a great job of recruiting, the best sales organization in the industry and having the people that really care and that every day fight for, every opportunity. So it's just an interesting time. And I think day by day we're learning how to navigate it. But, from my standpoint.
Well, something that you brought up that hasn't been addressed on before. I mean, as we were talking before we started recording this, you notice that a lot of people are saying relationships. That's what's matter. That's what makes this industry so unique versus any other industry. And that's what's important.
Absolutely.
And I personally believe that, you as well in sales, but something that you mentioned is differentiation.
Yeah.
So if you can speak to this, how is, for example, your company putting themselves, because right now it's creativity, it's adaptability, it's relationships. And you're right, it is a question of differentiation. So what are y'all doing to differentiate yourself from your competition?
So, I think that Universal is just, in general, there's a lot that people don't know about us, right? And so part of it, in the Northeast, we began 40 years ago, Universal did. We started in Meadville, Pennsylvania. So we have a 40-year track record. So from a frac company, there's not many companies that can say that. So we've been through these ups and downs, right? And so in the Northeast, where it all started, that name, the Universal name and brand, is very strong. You move into the mid-con to the South, we are driving to create that brand and to just get our story out there. People don't know that, we've been around for 40 years. And with 40-year history, there's a lot of firsts, right? that you can talk about is, we're one of the first companies to bring dual fuel to the frac side to try to save operators money on fuel savings. So we partnered with Cummins, back in 2012. We fracked the first Marcellus well. and you know where the Marcellus is now. It's huge. So we did that. We fracked, you know, at the time it was the longest known lateral in the Permian Basin. So there's a lot of firsts. We have a lot of you know, through 40 years we know how to position ourselves to survive. But I think one of the biggest differentiators really is around how we drive performance, HSE, operational performance. We track everything. And as a culture internally in Patterson-UTI in general, the umbrella of all of our companies, of all those, we track every minute on every location to see where are the flat times, where can we pump more, where can we do this, and that's something that we take those metrics and we compare them internally against our other crews. We also compare them against our competition to see where we're really at. You can think you're number one, but until you can prove it, it doesn't mean anything, right? So we really drive, you know, through our P10 plus metric system, you know, that continuous improvement and, you know, getting in front of the crews and letting them know where they're at, letting them know where the market's at. Because, you know, the market 4 years ago was 12 hours of pumping time per day and everybody was happy. But now if you're not getting 18 to 20 a day, you're not going to be around. So, you know, we kind of live by the whole motto of, you know, what gets measured gets managed, right? And I think that's one of the big differentiators of Universal is the way the culture is of a continuous improvement and partnering with our operators to really try to improve their economics by us being as efficient as we can on location.
So you got this, so Universal has this history, this 40-year history, right? However, what you're saying is, I mean, that's all great. The first here, first doing this.
Yeah.
That being said, that's not going to make a company survive something like this. But what you're saying is y'all have in some ways evolved to be adaptive, to gather this data, to communicate data savings and all that stuff to your customers, correct?
You have to, because when a customer looks at it and they say, you know, I'm picking this customer because they're, you know, not necessarily cheapest, it's the best value, right? If you're coming on and you're doing the best job anybody can, and I can sit there and say, this is what we're tracking. If there are inefficiencies, we can point them out. We can get with the operator and say, what can we do together to improve it? That's really what drives what's going to make you survive in this market. Is you have to be better than your competition. And when you can prove that and you can sit down and say, this is our culture, this is the way we operate, and every day, not just in this market, but every day, this is where we operate. You know, people listen, and they want to learn, and we learn from them on what do they track, how do we need to look at things. And so there's just a whole bunch of things that we try to put out in front of operators, you know, and the differentiators and getting those out there right now is, you know, different avenues of, you know, we do a lot of webinars, like I mentioned before, and we just have a webinar, we send it out and invite people to listen in. We talk about our metric system, we talk about dual fuel, and it has really helped in this market get those new connections and start those new conversations. And I think that's really important right now.
So pretty much it sounds like this data collection and this measuring inefficiencies, that sounds to me like it's kind of insurance on top of the relationship that's already there.
Hey, you have to perform, right? Your friends can help you get in the door, but you gotta
you gotta be there. So real quick, I want to ask you about. I'm hearing a lot of talk about electronic frac or e-frac. You've talked about passing savings on and measuring this and looking at this data. Is that something Universal is looking into currently?
So that's a really good question. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So, you know, e-frac has been a big topic for probably the last year. And really, you know, for those, I guess, people that are listening and don't know what e-frac is, it's where the frac equipment is powered by a gas turbine. And so it's all electric powered compared to the historic conventional diesel fleet. So in short, Universal, you know, our engineering team and technology team has went down the road of saying, if we want to go down that road, what is it going to look like? What's our turbines going to look like? What's our power going to look like? All this. So we have that, like we know what that would be, but there's a few things why we have not gone down that road. Really the first one being the economics of it, right? Is an e-frac fleet is substantially more expensive than a conventional spread. So as a company, we just haven't seen where the economics really make sense right now. And they hadn't for really the past year. So, it being part of the Patterson-UTI umbrella, we are very financially responsible. We have to, things need to make sense to put money out there. You got to cover your cost of capital, and having that mindset all the time lets you weather these downturns. So really that's the first reason why we haven't gone down there. The second one is, operators are interested in e-frac. Number one, for fuel savings. Number two would be for like the ESG improvement, the environmental, social, governance improvements, the talk of, the industry right now. And so the fuel savings is easy to calculate. The second one is the ESG savings, where e-frac, could be supposed to be a lot more emission friendly on location. Well, from our standpoint, and with our history with dual fuel, we actually think that the most logical step for us would be Tier 4 dual fuel, where you have the new engines that are more environmentally friendly, and then you have dual fuel, which you can get up to 85% substitution rate with natural gas compared to diesel. So when we look at it, though, when e-frac, and from what we've studied, is when turbines are under load on e-frac, they do have good emissions. The problem is, from what we see, is the idle time. And the idle time, they're very they do have a lot of high emissions on the turbine side. So when you average out over the pad, the idle time, and then when they're under load, for us, going down Tier 4 dual fuel is the next logical step. We see that the emissions are actually better overall on a total pad for Tier 4 dual fuel. Now, I think turbines will get there, and I think some other things, but as a company, for the number one, the financial expense to go to the next step and still give the operators the savings compared to e-frac, that's really where we're at. But if we always talk to operators about the e-frac, and if the economics make sense, I think that's something we're interested in. But I think there's just more to the conversation than that. But it is a talking point, like you've said, across the industry. So and everybody has their different take on it.
And it really has been a talking point. I remember I went to a IADC lunch at Petroleum Club, and I think Richard Spears,
yep.
I think that he gave a talk on that. And I think one point that he was strongly against it, just because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It sounds sexy. It sounds more green. It sounds this, it sounds that. But the only people that really might potentially benefit is the operator, which isn't bad. But that being said, I mean, you can't build that for free. You can't run that for free.
The economics have to make sense.
Exactly.
For the contractor. And like I say, I mean, from our standpoint, I mean, we're open to the conversations. It's just a matter of, does the numbers make sense for us to do? And that's why, still to target the ESG part and reach those operators' goals that are most important is the Tier 4 dual fuel from where we sit. So.
And one thing before we kind of start getting the wrapped up questions, you mentioned relationships, and if they're not strong before this all started, how does one begin to, for example, let's say I know you, I can call you and we can have a chit chat. If you're my customer, we can shoot the shit. I can tag up with you, find about business. However, this environment where, and honestly, I view probably, I don't know the direction of the industry, but I think this social distancing lockdown is probably going to have a lot of companies saying no more breakfast runs, no more lunch and learns. It's probably going to limit the number of people that come in and out of their office. So how does one get creative when they do need to, what would you advise the people that work for you if they do need to build a relationship with a cold call?
Man, I don't know if I have the clean answer, because that is, as you know, personalities are so different that you have to just have, we always talk about tools in our toolbox, right? The easy one is if there's a business need there where they're asking for a bid, then you have the opportunity to talk to them. It's what do you do with that conversation, right? And I believe that in our industry, the relationships matter, and they need to start out from not just somebody hard selling you, right? I mean, you have to genuinely like somebody and want to talk to them again. And I think I listened to one of your podcasts before, and Andrew Taylor said, just somebody talking and asking me about some personal stuff matters. And I relate to that, it's like, yeah, I mean, so we encourage everybody to, you need to create the business need and be in front of them. But when you have the opportunity, I mean, you have to start building that relationship now. And I don't know, if I have the answer to say this is the best way to do it. But you have to use what existing relationships you have now to get that opportunity to where it's not just somebody answering the phone saying, what do you have? It's using my buddy JP, right? Do you know this person? And through the years, I've always done this where, in different settings or whatever, you try to, make it more of like a connection of why that person wants to visit with you. As my, JP Warren helped me get the introduction. That person's going to listen to me a little bit more than just me calling. Right. And so we really try to leverage those relationships, really try to get in front of people. And then you have to drive home, why are we different than our competition? And you have to get people, hungry for that next meeting, that next opportunity. And with that, just as time goes, you grow and cultivate those relationships.
And you know what? Something's interesting too that I've kind of noticed. Ever since everything hit, and let me know your thoughts on this, or if you have seen the same thing. I kind of feel like it's made a lot of people a little bit more humble. It makes a lot of people more willing to pick up the phone, or willing to have a Zoom chat, or willing to have a Zoom happy hour. It's people that you wouldn't have called on before, but if you can kind of bring them in a group, I mean, people are more prone to pick up the phone right now and to talk to you. So for those of you that are listening that don't have those relationships, pick up the phone. Try to call someone. They pick up. If not, try again. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, no, it's all about, people want to know that you are genuinely interested in gaining their business. If you call once every 2 months, that's the only time they hear from you. I mean, I get those emails from people, right? And I delete them, but the people that do are like, hey, every Monday or whatever, they're like, hey, I thought about this. I give them the opportunity to talk, I mean, I appreciate a good sales spiel, a good effort. I appreciate that.
So. I think I do too. So real quick, what do you, before we give a message to the audience, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, to be honest, with the talk of, Texas starting to open up, I look forward to getting back to hopefully some face-to-face interaction with some of the people I haven't talked to in a long time. I mean, so my best friends in the world are in the industry, right? And
you're talking to one right now. Go on.
I am. I'm looking straight at one right now. But I look forward to business kind of getting back to what usual. I know it probably won't get back to usual for months and months, but I look forward to having that interaction where at least you can say, hey, let's try to meet for lunch, or let's try to do something outside of the office. I look forward to the oil price coming back and people actually hiring somebody for once. I think everybody in the industry wants that. I don't think there's a clear timeline on any of that, but I think that's what everybody looks forward to is getting back to what the norm was and not seeing people laid off every day across the industry.
I agree. I think it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. And I think people are going to have to start kind of having real conversations with themselves on what does this look like? Do I want to be here when it comes back? Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of that where people don't come back, I mean, the industry's not for the faint of heart, and if you got caught in a couple layoffs and a couple downturns, I don't blame you for not coming back, but it's always hard. I mean, every time it's hard, and we all talk about how many we've been through, that's like your battle wounds of how many downturns you've been through. And, but it's just an interesting time right now. And I guess with the supply and demand side, who knows when norm and oil price will come back, but I wish I had a crystal ball, be able to.
I mean, it's interesting. Now we're talking, we're hearing stuff from the Texas Railroad Commission. We're hearing stuff from Washington, D.C., potentially putting tariff. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that I don't think anyone can actually make a educated guess on where this is going to go.
Right. It's a macro problem.
It's all speculation right now. So what, to wrap this up, what message do you have? Do you have any message you'd like to convey to our audience right now?
As far as a message, a closing message or something, I think everybody would be listening to this podcast. I mean, I think everybody can agree that, I mean, the oil and gas industry is the greatest industry of the world. I mean, I truly believe that. It's where hard work,
Amen.
dedication, loyalty pay off. It's where those friendships, relationships really help you in business, right? I mean, things are going to happen in the industry, and the way you treat people matter. The way you conduct your business matters. Your reputation is all you have to stand by. But I think the industry is just the greatest one, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And I think everybody that is in the industry is proud to be a part of it. And it takes a lot for all the men and women in the field that when it's 30 below zero out, and you're working on a frac spread or a rig or wireline or cement crew or whatever, is those are conditions nobody wants to be in. But there's proud people out there that are the salt of the earth, that are providing the world with energy, and that's something that needs to be shown more to the general public, I think. And I think that we're the ones that need to do that, and really, it's just good to be a part of something so big. And I think in closing, the last thing I would leave with is, in 2014, 15, when I was on the rig side, everybody would always ask, hey, when's it going to turn around? When's it going to turn around? When's it going to turn around? And, instead of saying, I don't know, or, a date in the future, I just kept saying, the only thing I can tell you is that we're one day closer to the boom. So that's what I leave everybody with, is after today, we're one day closer to the boom.
Amen. Amen to that. So again, everyone, I want to thank Marty Unrein, Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Universal Pressure Pumping, for coming by. If you have any questions or want to reach Marty or myself, you can reach us at Round the Rotary at cappetro.com. Again, that's Round the Rotary at cap-petro.com. Marty, look forward to having a beer with you. Look forward to having a beer with you when everything's lifted. And good talking to you today. Thanks for stopping by.
Sounds great. Thanks, Chippy.
Take care.